Good morning, Africa. This is Sandrine Permal talking to you from Mauritius. Welcome to our webinar on auditing cash and cash equivalents using Audit International template. I'm delighted to see so many of you joining today, eager to dive into this very important topic. Auditing cash and cash equivalent is a critical aspect for any audit, requiring a keen eye for detail and a thorough understanding of the processes involved. Today, we will explore how the Caseware Audit International template can streamline this process, making it more efficient and effective for you auditors. Today, we have a special guest and a fantastic speaker, Ellen Fletcher, who brings with her 15 years of audit experience to this webinar. She will provide us with practical tips, strategies that you can apply to your own audits, helping you navigate the complexities of auditing cash and cash equivalent with confidence. Before we begin, please ensure that you download the handouts. Do let us know as well if you did not receive the Caseware working paper file. We'll make sure that we provide them to you. As usual, as you know, as yesterday, I encourage you all to actively participate in the webinar. Feel free to ask your questions, share your thoughts, and engage with us, especially with Ellen in the room. So an overview of what we will complete today. We are going to understand who is the client that we are auditing. We are focusing on auditing cash and cash equivalent section. We will go through the risk assessment procedures, through the system description, why is it important, and the work program, how to fill in your work program. As usual, you know the drill. All attendees are muted. Feel free to use the chat function to ask your questions. If you lose signal, please exit and come back into the webinar, or you can use the app rather than the browser. The recording will be made available to you after the session. This will be done early next week. As we start to find our way, open our Caseware working paper, let's do a poll. So I'm going to launch it just now. A poll around, do you have the course material downloaded today? Yes or not yet? Please do share with us whether you've been able to download everything, or alternatively, we'll make sure to share it with you. If you don't have the PowerPoint, the slides, they are on the handout section of the GoToWebinar. Please make sure to download, and we'll share a link. If you don't have the Caseware working paper file, we'll share a link with you for that. Okay, looking at the poll, I see that we've got 64% on the less than 60% not yet downloaded. We've got 51% of vote. Guys, waiting for you. 10 more seconds to fill in the poll. They're giving you time to answer. I've also shared in the chat box a link to the Caseware engagement file that we're about to look into, so that you can all download. It's in the chat box. You can refer to the chat for that. All right, thank you all for your responses. I'm going to close the poll. Next, I'd like us to, we want to know more about you. What year of your training contract are you in? Or is it your first year? your second, third, final year, or your supervisor, or you in an audit firm, but you're not completing your training contract or any other. All right, 30 more seconds for more votes. We're only at 38% of the population who voted. Please do share with us what year of your training contract you are in. Five more seconds. All right, thank you all for your participation. Really appreciate, as usual. We look forward to your participation. Oops, let me close the poll now. That's 100%. So today we are going to focus on the cash and cash equivalent for a company called Wrap-Up Manufacturing Pty Limited. That will be that same file we've been using since day one for Audit International. If you don't have the file, I remind you, it's in the chat box. Please download the engagement file. Usually, you will be required to read the planning meetings or even to attend planning meetings to understand your client. But for today, we will explain to you as we go because obviously we're short of time. The financial year end for Wrap-Up Manufacturing is 30th of April 2024. We are using either IFRS for SME or the full IFRS. On my side, I've selected the full IFRS template, and the accountant in charge at Wrap-Up Manufacturing Limited is Andy Crack. All right, so let's begin. I'm now going to hand over to Helen. I hope that you can unmute yourself. Helen, who's going to talk us, as you would remember, we did on day one, where do financial statements come from? Over to you, Helen.
Morning, Sandrine. Could you just confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Helen. I'm just going to talk you through very little today. Sandrine gets to be in control and run things, and I get to sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Right, so what we kind of want to do is just, I want to say, set the scene for you, explain sort of where we're heading or what the objective is. So we've incorporated that slide from your first session just to sort of explain how it all filters in. I see that my slide is so slow on my side. Sandrine, you can just put all of the little circles on for me. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So you'll remember the slide from session one, and we basically was chatting through where do the financial statements come from. And if you work your way backwards from the financial statements, which is what we are issuing our audit opinion on, we go back to where does the financial statements come from? They come from the trial balance and other information, like other agreements, for instance, for loan terms, etc. Things that you're not going to find in your trial balance, which is filled with the accounts plus the numbers. The trial balance comes from the general ledger. And then we've specifically now, just to put you in the right frame of mind for the cash and cash equivalents, the general ledger generally is processed from the cash book in the cash and cash equivalent section. So the client will process the cash book into the system, it updates to the GL, that filters through to the trial balance, and then we go through to the financial statements. The cash book is coming from the bank statements. So these days you don't need to do all old school. Once upon a time when I did accounting, we all old school process line by line the bank statements. Now you have nice fancy things like importing it, which is fantastic because a real time saver. And the bank statements essentially come from some action that has taken place. So if I am the client. I will, for instance, need to pay a creditor for things that I have purchased from them. I will then do the payments. It will reflect on the bank statement. I will process it into my cash book, either through import or manual processing of that transaction. That gets updated to my general ledger account. That general ledger is then summarized in my trial balance. In terms of other, for a cash and cash equivalent section, other would be things like a facilities letter or something that the client, remember from the client's perspective, tells them about, let's say, securities that they have provided. And then you put all of that stuff together. At the end of the process, we get to the financial statements, which will be the line that is reflected on the statement of financial position and the note that gives further detail, for instance, the breakdown into what the bank balances are, the cash balance, what if there's a bank overdraft, what is the bank overdraft, and then any securities which have been provided. The securities can either be disclosed in that note or the notes where the liability is disclosed. Right, Sandrine, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. Okay, so in terms of big picture, what we are trying to do when we do auditing is we have to tie some things together. So the accounting framework, so either IFRS or IFRS for IFRS for SMEs, you'll hear me say IFRS or IFRS for SMEs, I mean International Financial Reporting Standards or the International Financial Reporting Standard for SMEs. So the accounting framework really drives what should be in the financial statements and how that should be accounted for. So that's very closely linked to how the client, or in some cases where we are allowed to do so, where we will draft the client's financial statements. Then we've got the third part of that process, which is on the bottom left-hand side. When we are auditing, we are tying these things in together. So our audit will incorporate what does the accounting framework say should be done. For instance, in our case today, in cash and cash equivalents, it's sitting under financial instruments. What does the financial instruments standard tell us about how to classify the cash and cash equivalents, how to account for it, how it must be presented, the additional disclosures which may be required. And this, we then audit the financial statements and make sure the financial statements are compliant with what is in the accounting framework. Right. So also remember, in terms of our little thought bubbles on there, the financial statements are coming from the financial statements is what we're issuing our opinion on. So it is the ultimate objective of our audit that we issue this audit opinion. And when we do the audit, we check that the disclosures, transactions, and balances are all in line with the framework. And in terms of how the framework comes across in Audit International, I'm sure Sandrine will have a little more to say on this. It is selected on document 400.2. And also in 510, where we identify risks through understanding the entity, we understand what the policies, etc., are on the accounting framework. Okay, Sandrine, do you want to, I can discuss the cash book testing now or at the end, which would you prefer?
Okay, let's keep that one for the end. Let's cover the rest. Thank you so much, Elaine.
No problem.
Right, so that's really putting us, that financial reporting frameworks, really putting us into context of what are the different steps that we're about to complete and how also we should approach that. So now I've shared with you a zip folder for you to open if you don't have Wrap-Up Manufacturing Limited. Can you ensure that you first unzip or extract all and then use your Caseware working paper file, open computer, and browse to the location where that folder has been saved? I'm going to give you all, I'm going to count from now, 2 minutes to open your wrap-up manufacturing engagement file, and please raise your hands to let me know that you have been able to download the file and that you have the file. So did I say 2 minutes from now? So let's start from now. And if you have any issue, please don't hesitate to use the chat function. Nanofa, I've received your question that you were not able to open because the file was corrupted. It's not corrupted, it's just that you need to unzip it, and then once you open, it should be fine. 1 more minute. Please do use the raise hand option on GoTo to let me know that you've been able to open wrap-up manufacturing. Thank you, Rohan. All right, because we're quite short of time, there's quite a bit to cover. Please do take your time to open. You can focus on my screen, and then during the break, we're gonna have 10 minutes break every hour. You can then sort out and open and do and catch up all the steps that we've completed. So just a quick reminder, when you will open your wrap-up manufacturing limited, you will first see your digital dashboard. It will be on either the Add New tab or Engagement Setup. If you feel more confident, you can open your document manager by clicking top left of your screen, the documents tile, and it will open your document manager. Now, to go to our cash and cash equivalent, you can either use the usual Control F to find your cash and cash equivalent easily, or you can also drill down to your lead sheets, current assets, cash and cash equivalent, which is in folder 420. Also, remember the nervous system in Audit International. If I go back to digital dashboard and workflow, is your financial statement area. Remember, this is the document where you will have all the list of your material financial statement areas. Just pausing a few moments to give you time to locate your FSA. Open the financial statement area worksheet, and you will see the FSA 420, which is the cash and cash equivalent. On that particular line, you can double click over the values. Just a quick reminder, you can double click over the values to see the list of accounts that have been mapped to that financial statement area. So we have current account here, account 8450 net bank call 8440 We've got one 5410 which is a negative. So if you think of how did we get to those figures, this is via mapping. The figures are appearing here because we've done the mapping of those account numbers. We can't see the name here. It's indicating to us that this value, which here must be a cash or bank overdraft, has been mapped to the bank overdraft section. Then you have your petty cash, which is 1,988.30. If I scroll down further, you should be able to view your bank overdraft. Same drill, double click to view the details. This is our net bank overdraft facility, 3 million negative. Now, if we also quickly go to the aim here, once you've got to your financial statement area, sorry about that, I'm looking for my cash and cash equivalent. The aim here is, as you look through this financial statement area, we're still at the planning stage of our audit, 4.9 million. To look at your FSA under the risk references for your relevant assertions, your supervisors or your managers would have raised the risks for these different assertions for cash and cash equivalent. So the next step usually will be for you to go, if I go to the digital dashboard, the next step will be to go through the understanding the entity. Remember how to read your digital dashboard. It's a top to bottom approach. So it helps you. You need to start from to the left of the screen, then you go through all of this. Remember, you have to read your planning meetings and everything. Then you go to FSA, and then we are going to go through understanding the entity. Remember that document 510, identifying risk through understanding the entity, where we're going to document our understanding of the entity's selection and application of accounting policies and reason for any changes. Now, because we're focusing on cash and cash equivalent, whatever I'm going to read is going to be applicable to cash and cash equivalent. Now, the next step that usually your manager and yourself also need to be done is to go through your GL extract, document any risk that you've identified. I've already shared a file with you with all those documented risks. For now, if we look at this document 510, it's asking us, okay, let me quickly go back to the applicable reporting framework. We first need to insert the inquiries made to the entity personnel. So we've inserted, remember at the planning meeting, we've seen that it's Andy Crack who's the accountant, the date that we've made the inquiry, and then these are all the different things to consider, and we are going to document our results. So the first question is the applicable reporting framework, the method used to account for significant unusual transactions, although all these things are to be considered while documenting our results or when we identify risk of material misstatements. Now, if we go back to the document manager, actually, it's not the document manager, we have obtained from the client the GL. So as you look at your 510 and before documenting your results here, and even when you're looking at your FSA and all these accounts that have been mapped to that cash and cash equivalent, we want to know the detail extract of it. I'm tempted to take you back to this slide, which very nicely explains to what we are about to do. Your FSA, let's say we're going to look at the financial statements, that will be the FSA. When we double click over the line item, we've seen a snapshot, we've seen the trial balance, the account that has been mapped. Now, what we want to do is drill down further to the general ledger. So now let's open the general ledger and get a better understanding of this component, this cash and cash component. Once again, this was shared with you in our email, the cash and cash equivalent GL extract. If you don't have it at the moment, guys, please don't worry about it. Take a notepad, write all what we're about to say. The recording will be made available to you. We can reshare anything with you after the session. What's important today is for you to be able to understand how to audit cash and cash equivalent. So that's the GL extract for cash and cash. If you should follow my cursor, top left of my screen, it says prepared by Rapid Manufacturing. This is the detailed ledger. This is our financial year, 1st of May 2022, 30th of April 2023, the name of the different columns, and then we have the different accounts or the different cash book items. So we start with the net bank overdraft facility. We've got an opening balance with all the different dates and the different movements for the year. And if I scroll down further, we've got the closing balance. Okay, no, that's not the closing balance I wanted. So let's go back. We've got the net bank call account with all the movements. You've got the petty cash with all the movements. We've got the net bank overdraft facility. Now, you guys have the option to stay on the GL. Remember, the GL will be the processing, the detailed processing of what has gone through the cash and cash equivalent, helping you understand the different actions taken. So you can use the Excel itself to browse through the detail. Alternatively, if you have an analytic tool with your firm, you can ask your supervisor, you can use it. For example, I have used Caseware Idea to perform an analysis. The first step, I have imported my cash and cash equivalent, my GL extraction with all the details, the date, the entry type, the reference, description, debit and credit, and the bank name. Then what I've done is I've run through a summarization because I wanted to understand what are the movements for the different bank accounts for the year. So by running this summarization task, I was able to get the movement for the year. And then I've used a join test or a join option to then have my opening balance, my movement, and I've calculated, I've recomputed my closing balance. Now, once we've gone through the records, where we've examined the records here, what we can do is drill down further in all these details. You can use the hyperlinks if you have your supervisor can explain to you how to use Caseware Idea or Excel, but I'm going to focus on Idea for today. I can then go and start, let's start with, for example, petty cash. Double click to examine. What I've done here is summarize per month all the movement. So what we can see here by looking at the movement per month, let me increase a bit the screen. The expectation usually when you think of petty cash would be a consistent float. Even if when we look at the closing balance for petty cash, we can see the opening balance was $610, movement 1,387, a closing of 1,998. When you think of petty cash, the expectation is that the flow gets consistently topped up when a value when it is used. However, whilst talking to the manager or the accountant and the crack, once we've got through all of that, he told us that they were not using a fixed float and cash and cash. Okay, now let me go into the detail of cash and cash. Cash and cash was actually used for small expenses, like they had a small office party or they needed refreshments or whatever small expenses were used out of the petty cash. And Andy Crack also told us that when the balance runs low, that is when they have used most of the cash, then they will top up with either 4,000 or 5,000 Rand, depending on what is expected as expense. If we look at the first 3 rows, just to focus on and help you understand what I'm trying to say that usually Andy Crack explained to us that they will top up the petty cash with a fixed balance of either 4,000, in some cases 5,000, when they expect some expenses to be generated. Also, they informed us that if a debtor pays in cash, they would usually keep it in the petty cash if under 6,000 Rand. So that was just a simulation of how you're going to read through all of the details of your general ledger. You can go granular. You can ask the questions. Why do we have only that? Why not a fixed float? Why don't we have, the expectation of a petty cash? So that was just a mini simulation of that. If we go through our net bank facility, just want to show you that as well. If we look at the facility, let's look at the monthly movements. So we can see under the monthly movements that we've got some positives, negatives, a typical overdraft facility. If you also have a look at the closing balance for overdraft, let me quickly open this net bank overdraft facility. We've started with an opening balance of 556 positive, a movement of negative 3 million, and a closing negative 3 million. Again, a closing overdraft. Now, let's take and bash all of these balances. Now that we've got all the GL, we've gone granular to it. Let's go to our lead sheet and make sure that whatever TB we've imported does tally with that GL that we've obtained. So if I go back now to my document manager under the folder 420 cash and cash equivalent, let's open the automatic document, the lead sheet 420. So I trust that you do recall what is a lead sheet. It's a snapshot of your trial balance. As you can see, if I scroll down, let me try to increase the view here. Okay, no, I can't increase the view. Oh, here we go. So we've got our cash and cash equivalent. We have the petty cash, 1,198. I trust that you do recall that. Can see it as well, my reconciliation that tally now with my lead sheet for 20. I can even add a comment on your Caseware idea or even your Excel if you've done a VLOOKUP or a table, or what can you do? It's been a long time I've not used Excel, but you can also simply perform your own calculation with the opening and the debit and credit and looking at, or you can also use the closing balance here that you have for all the different accounts. Okay, same principle for everything. We have now the net bank overdraft facility currently on our cash and cash equivalent. There's a 0 there because remember it has been mapped to, if I go to current liabilities bank overdraft, to the bank overdraft component, bank overdraft mapping number. And here we go, our 3,197,000. And again, if you look at my Caseware idea, we can see the balance negative 3.1 million. So let's continue because we've got 4 accounts. The net bank call account, 4,064,809. That's the listing that we've obtained. That's 100%. And the current account, 853,327.12. So what we're looking here is the balances that has been processed in the cash book that has updated the GL. That's the GL that we've examined, that will then reflect on the TB. Now that we've got confidence, we've got all the detailed general ledger, let's now go through our system description together. Okay, I just want also to note down that we have used the last part of the lead sheet to note down what we've been doing so far. So for instance, I've said here that we've made inquiries to Andy Crack, who's the accountant, and I've also noted down the date. I've also said that no accounts appear to be incorrectly mapped. That's what we've seen when we've looked at the net bank overdraft facilities, nicely mapped to the bank overdraft. No unusual accounts have been noted, but we're going to go into and understand all these notes as we progress. Okay, so okay, let me quickly go through that one because I'm just conscious of time. It's already 20 minutes to the hour. So by looking at our Caseware idea, even your Excel, we've noted that there was no unusual accounts that were noted. We've seen the 4 account numbers for cash and cash. We've also not noted any unusual changes. So you can use tools in your Caseware idea or even on Excel to look through the different movements, to look through the trends of your different bank accounts. You can use the tools, you can use the visualize option to visualize the trends. So nothing noted. Bank accounts fluctuate year on year. No consistent balance is expected. The net bank, so as you can see, the net bank facility has changed from a positive balance to a negative balance, which is not unusual as this is essentially the overdraft facility. So if you look again at the net bank, let me close all of these tabs and go back to the net bank call account. Is it the net bank call account? No, it's the overdraft. With the overdraft and the monthly movement, it's going from positive to negative month over month. So this is the expected trend for that facility. And we've also inspected the general ledger accounts. Nothing unusual identified for the bank account except for the petty cash, which, as mentioned, it did not reflect as expected. We will do more tests to really understand what's going on in a few moments. And yeah, and then we are going to discuss about the accounting policy for cash and cash equivalent as we progress. Now, let's go and read through the system description to understand a bit further on how does Andy Crack or the team do the processing. So if we go back to the source, right? So we've been looking at the financial statement area, the trial balance. We're happy that we've seen all the accounts. We're happy with the accounts. We've seen the details of those accounts through the GL. Now, what we want to understand is the system description. So the system description will be a description of how the processing of those line items on your general ledger is done by the finance team, by the accountant, by the financial manager. The system description can be seen on your document manager. We have added the system description, the Excel 420A. You can double click to open the system description. So what we see here, so usually the system description documentation will be provided by your firm in any format, a Word or an Excel or a Notepad. I'm not too sure which tool that you use, but you must inquire for that. We've got the name of the company on the top. If it's not written there, you can do that. Insert the year-end date and also insert this, what is that schedule used for. This is the system description for cash and cash equivalent. We've also added a cross-reference. This is our document 420A. It does match to the document number on Document Manager. The first point here, we say discussion held with Andy Crack on 24th of June 2023. The personnel involved in the system description is Andy and Stefan Harper, who's the director. Now let's read through together the system description. So for the payments processing, Andy Crack has the rights on the banking system to load payments, which makes sense. He's the accountant. These payments are then released either by Andy or Stefan. So, okay, so Andy has the right to load payment and also has the right to release the payment. Same for Stefan Harper, who's the director. Just that you can start to feel and understand what the issue could be here. I'm going to continue to read through, but please just stop thinking of what is the possible issue here, and I'm going to launch a little question in a few moments. Reading through the payments processing, Andy Crack will pull a bank statement from the system regularly and then process the transactions into the accounting system via the cash book. Bank reconciliations are performed monthly. Loading new beneficiaries. Andy Crack, upon discussion, talking to Andy Crack, we've seen that Andy Crack and each of the directors have the rights to load new beneficiaries on the banking system. What about the receipts processing? They're asking us to see, we've noted down there to see the payment processing, so we're going to see that just now. The monitoring, so Stefan Harper will review the bank recon monthly, investigate reconciling items, as well as agree the bank reconciliation to the underlying records. There is, however, no evidence of this review being performed. Other journal entries may be paused to account for accrued interest or fees on facilities, and these journals are also processed by Andy Crack. We've performed our workthrough procedures here. We've observed Andy Crack logging into the banking system and loading payments to be made. We've also observed Stefan Harper releasing the payments through his own login credentials. We have requested Polly, the accounts clerk, to log into the banking system, but she is unable to. We will go through in a few moments into the inspection of the bank reconciliation that will be performed. We'll see that in a few moments. So I'm going to come back here. And we've also inspected the user right listing on the banking system, obtained from Stefan Harper, and confirmed that Andy and each of the directors have beneficiary rights. Because we've seen, so I'm going to read through because we're just conscious of time, but we'll come back to here when we come to the bank reconciliation. But we've inquired Stefan if bank recon are inspected and tested. He confirmed that he does it every month. Now that you've got a bird's eye view of the system, of the description of how cash and cash equivalent universe work at wrap-up manufacturing, what do you think here is the problem? NDCRAC has the option, not the option, but the right to load payments. He has also the right to load the beneficiary to those payments. And he can also release those payments, approve those payments. There is clearly here a reportable item here, right? What we see is that wrap-up does not have adequate segregation of duties for NDCRAC. He's able to load the beneficiary, to load the payment, to release the payment. He even processes the account and even reconcile it. So this issue or this reportable item should be documented and raised through our reportable card in the work program. So by reading through the system description, should use your professional knowledge, should use your guidance from your supervisor and managers to go and report or document on any issues. So to raise a reportable item on Caseware working paper on your Audit International, sorry about that, you can come to the document manager itself. So there's the reportable, create new reportable item option. So just on your quick jumps, just above your document manager, on my side, there's a little more option arrow button. You can create a new reportable item. But what I usually recommend to Audit International users will be, because you will be documenting all of that, it can be either on your cash and cash equivalent lead sheet, or even better, on the 510, identifying risk to understanding the entity. That's what we are currently doing. You might want from this document to raise your reportable item. That green icon with a tick on it, that's the reportable item card. You can click on the button and it should open in a few moments, the reportable items card. Bear with me a few moments. There we go. Okay, so that's the reportable item card. If you record from your first day of training, the top left is the doormat. You can click on the doormat and then select create new item. I've already created for us because we are short of time. So I've added a title. This is called segregation of duties. The description. So on the company's banking system, NDCRAC is able to load new beneficiaries, load payments, release payments. She's also able to responsible for processing payments into the accounting records, performing reconciliation. There is lack of segregation of duties. The implication is a misappropriation of funds, could easily be obscured. Source, I've selected the document for 2010. So that's the audit procedure. We're going to come to that in a few moments. And there we can go to the system description. So you can also link to the different documents. Press on OK. You also need to provide with your recommendation and responses. So let me quickly do the editing. So I've inserted the recommendation for the segregation of duties. Just going to edit that one here. And yeah, you can view that in a few moments. We're going to view that in our reportable items lead sheet. Also note, I'm going to press on OK now. Also note that we have here documented our results. We were identifying risk through understanding the entity. We've read through the system description, we went through the general ledger, we went through our analytics tool, and we've noted here under the documentation of the result for cash and cash equivalent that we've noted, inspected the GL, identified the client does not make use of a fixed float, that they usually top up with 4,000 Rand or 5,000 Rand, and the cash is used and topped up as necessary. And we've added here all our comments that we've came through. I'm going to quickly jump to the different questions that we have, and then we're going to move. The next step will be to move into our work program. These will be the different procedures that we need to perform to address the risk raised. And by the way, just for your information, the different risk raised that you'll see, that you've seen as well on the FSA, so they were raised through the understanding the entity as well, and usually would be done by someone who did the planning, the established risk, and the procedures as well have been modified and tailored to address those risks raised by your managers. So quickly going through the different questions, or maybe if Ellen has any comment or want to talk through any of the questions in particular, is that fine?
Sandrine, nothing from my side.
All right, thank you. So there's not that much question so far. That's 100%. It's already it's nearly noon on my side. We are going to take a 10 minutes, a very short break, and then we're going to come and focus on the steps for on our work program. What are the different procedures that we're going to perform to address risk of Matoyomi statement, to address the risk that has been raised. So guys, 10 minutes of break from now. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody, from that short but sweet break. I promise we're going to have 10 minutes break in 1 hour. If you don't have the supporting documentation, whether it is the GL, the bank statement, or any other document, we have inserted in the chat box the link to do the download for what we're about to perform. Please do. To see, Ellen has nicely inserted the link for us in the chat box. You can refer to that for the supporting documents. If you've got some colleagues who are there still grabbing a cup of coffee, just ping them. We're about to start the work program. We're about to go through the audit procedures to address risk of the risk raised for cash and cash equivalent. I thought that we can start this session with that particular slide, which I really enjoy because it really helps us to understand what we are doing. So just a quick recap, what we're going to give our opinion on the cash and cash equivalent disclosed on the financial statements. We went through the FSA, we've seen the balance, we've gone through and see what are the account balances that has been mapped or any other document as explained by Elaine this morning. Then we went into the granular detail on the general ledger. We've seen all the processing. We've gone through the analytics by looking at the trends, understanding what are the different processors. We've also went through understanding the cash book, the actual system. How does the accountant and the team is processing the journal entries to the ledger? We're about in a few moments to go through our procedures to look at the bank statement, make sure that all whatever changes, whatever significant change, whatever item that needs documentation is documented. We're going to document our understanding of this process. Right, so I'm going to escape now. I was buying time to ensure that you guys can download everything that you're able to download. You can see that it's all on track. We escape this presentation, and remember your nervous system is the FSA, and to access your work program will be on the FSA. We're looking at cash and cash equivalent. You scroll to the right and you will get your work program, the 420.10 document. You can click on it and the document, the audit procedures should open. Now, bear in mind, your procedures have been already edited, has been sorted by your manager or by anyone who is responsible for the planning, who's been doing the establishment of the risks, and also making sure that your steps on the procedures, if you scroll to the body of your audit procedures, has been tailored to address the risk raised. On my side, I've already signed off as completed, but guys, we are about to do it together, so you can follow through, and then I'll talk about the results, how we sign off. Let's start off with the procedure 2, which is analytical procedures. Here we are expected to develop and document expectations for the period and cash balances based on information obtained from understanding the entity. Remember, we've been doing that since the morning, 1 hour on understanding the system description, understanding the GL, understanding the TB. The further instruction or guidance is investigate significant changes or trends in cash and cash equivalent, interest income expenses, ensure that bank overdrafts are only included as cash in cash if the overdraft is payable on demand and if it forms an integral part of the business's cash management and not otherwise. Document your findings. So, as mentioned, we've been doing part of this procedure when we have gone. Let me go again. I'm repeating myself, but I trust that you will get it. we've gone through our lead sheet. We've gone through our GL as well. I've on my side used Caseware Idea. You could as well use your normal Excel spreadsheet, but with Idea, obviously, you get even more insight. Your data really speaks for itself. Now, we have, let's focus on, I'm going to focus on that procedure, that second part of the procedure, because I've already discussed some of the top here. Ensure that bank overdrafts are included as cash in cash if the bank is repayable on demand and it forms an integral part of the business's cash and cash equivalent. So this procedure, we have talked, let's assume that we have talked to Andrew Crack, who's the accountant, remember, and Hopper, who's the director, and they have confirmed that the account is used for cash management. So if we once again go through our overdraft facility, now that they've confirmed that, you know, that account is just for cash management, if we go through the overdraft facility, let's understand the movement. Okay, let me close everything again and go through the net bank overdraft facility and the movements. So we can see here, if you look at the movement, that the balances swaps or sways from positive to negative throughout the year, as you can see. And if you go into the detail as well, gonna see, if I increase a bit that view here, gonna see the balances switching, and there is a transfer popping up, positive and negative. Now, looking at, if I look at the closing balance as well, still focusing on this net bank overdraft, we can see that the last year balance, prior year, the opening of this year will be the closing of prior year, is positive, and and the closing is negative. And a very nice way, if you don't have Caseware Idea, to view that you know, prior year against current year, will be to look at your lead sheet itself. If you go to your bank overdraft lead sheet 620, you can see here, oops, sorry, I don't see the, no, not sorry, but you don't see the value here for net bank overdraft. Obviously it's negative, it's positive, so it will be under cash and cash here. The net bank overdraft facility is positive 556,000. Okay, so by checking that the balances fluctuates between positive and negative, confirm that it is not purely financing. So what you need now to confirm is the classification of the account, whether it is correct, but also you need to explain to somebody who's reviewing the file what you've done. So I've made a note here, we've already written here that for the overdraft facility, we've seen that it is fluctuating year on year, no consistent balance is expected. The net bank discounting facility has changed from positive to a negative balance, which is not unusual, and this is essentially an overdraft facility. Let's also annotate, so that's the explanation that we have to include on our lead sheet to help our reviewer, manager, supervisor understand what we have done. Now, let's make a note on the lead sheet 620, because remember, this is our current year. We've got a bank overdraft. We want to add a note to this lead sheet. To add a note, you can right-click, open your right-clicking menu, and then select New Note. The New Note option gives you the option to insert more comments. So I'm just going to open mine. So we're going to say here that as the discussion with Andy Crack and Emily Harper, you can have at the date, the net bank discounting facility is part of cash management of the company. We have inspected the general ledger accounts and the lead sheets for prior year and current year and confirmed that the balance swings between a positive and a negative balance. It is therefore not solely a financing facility. It's a real bank overdraft facility. We are going to insert that note as global. Bottom of your dialog box, there's a checkbox which says show on all document global, meaning that wherever the technology will see the account number 5410 000, it will insert the note next to it. So if I look at the cash equivalent lead sheet for 20, you should also see next to the net bank overdraft facility account number, the note explaining what we have inserted on the bank overdraft. It's a global. Wherever it sees here, it will leave a comment next to that account number. Now, we have done the procedure, we have documented our findings, very important. Now let's sign off the procedure. To sign off the procedure, you've got different results. You've got completed, no exception, completed with an exception, not possible to complete, yes, no, not applicable, other. Because we have completed the section without any exception, there's nothing that we've noted. There's no issue that has been raised or anything that needs to be pointed out to the attention of the manager or partner. I'm going to select completed with no exception. When you select that sign off, there will be an automatic sign off with your initial and the date that you've performed the sign off. Also know that I have also referenced the lead sheet number next to that procedure because we've added some comments there. So I want to point out to my to my supervisor, that's where I've done all the work, the documentation of all my work. So to add the reference, I'm just going to do that for you. Add another reference. You can double click, there's a little plus icon, you can double click on it, then select new reference and look for any documentation relevant for that procedure that should support what your findings here or your comments. I'm not going to click on okay, I've already done that for you. We've also learned how to do that in previous sessions. Please elaborate on what you've learned so far. Let's now move to the next procedure, which is about obtaining a listing of all cash accounts. Procedure listing. Here it says, obtain a listing of all cash accounts at the period end and agree it to the general ledger. Confirm whether financial assets and financial liabilities have been offset or not. Inspect the lists of cash and cash equivalents. Confirm that financial assets and liabilities are only offset when allowed by your IFRS WSMU. In that case, my manager has modified that procedure for me, so I have to go and perform that procedure. We requested further to ask the personnel familiar with handling cash transactions, whether they are aware of unrecorded transactions and recorded bank accounts. We've got that young lady that we've discussed earlier. Remember her name? the assistant of Eddie Crack, who could not without any surprise log in onto the banking platform. It's in the system description over there. So let's perform that task. That procedure, which is the procedure number 3. So we are going to go through our, let me quickly open the extract. I've shared it with you, the extract for cash and cash equivalent. If you go to page 2, so we want to make sure that there's no offset. Sorry about that. So what we see on the cash and cash equivalent note, it says it's made up of our petty cash. I trust that you do remember that amount, 1,998. The bank balances, 4,980. And if we look at our lead sheet, 4.9 million, 4.9 million rand here, and a bank overdraft of 3,179,000. And clearly the assets and the liabilities have not been offset. So what we also have the confidence here, the asset is sitting on one lead sheet, the liability is sitting on another lead sheet, also giving you further evidence that these have not been offset. So we are going to now sign off that procedure. I'm going to insert completed, no exceptions. Now you can note that I have added a comment there. So you can do that by deselecting your sign off. There will be an option to add a result or a comment. Then you can simply say no offsetting has occurred for this procedure and then sign off. Once again, I've inserted the and a reference to that. You can reference to if you have inserted that extract or if you have any other documentation. If we now move to the section, the procedure number 4, which is your bank reconciliation. Here, the expectation is to audit your bank reconciliation at year end. We are requested to review the bank reconciliations for each account and document explanations for any old or unusual items. We're further requested to consider using the form for 2012 to perform these procedures. So when you have a procedure on Audit International and then a link within the procedure, recommended best practice is to really consider it. Please click on it and get to know what's in the procedure. If the documentation is in the file, because remember your manager must have modified the procedure, so you have to complete it. Usually, I'm just talking reference from yesterday, we had some comments around documents deleted. Usually in Audit International, you will not manually delete any document. Documents will be deleted through the optimizer checklist. If a document hasn't been deleted by the optimizer checklist, you have to go and read through or even ask your manager or supervisor the relevance of the document. Just give me a few moments. It's currently executing script. I'm opening the bank reconciliation procedures. You can also open the 420 on your side, 420.12, or alternatively, just give me a few moments. I'll go through this, the form for our bank reconciliation procedures. Remember, when it is executing script, bottom left of your screen, you have to wait for the procedure to generate. What's happening in the backend is any how do you call that? Any optimizer that should be applied to the document will be applied. Any procedure that should be retained will be retained or deleted if necessary, as per the instructions of the optimizer checklist.
Andreen, maybe I can jump in while we're all waiting for the document to open.
Thank you.
So I'll just fill in with my, I love auditing everyone, so I'll fill in with my little technical waffle while we're waiting. So the reason also, so what we're trying to accomplish when we do the cash and cash equivalents is we want to also, if there is a risk, we want to make sure that the balance at year end agrees to the bank statements at year end, which is our source document. So how we do this is the client will usually go and agree their bank statement and their cash book or their GL, and they might have reconciling items, which is just a little explanation of what where a difference could have arisen. But the point of our recon also is to make sure that we go back to making sure our year-end balance is correct in terms of our third-party documentation, which will be the bank statement. Thanks, Sandrine. I see we there now.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Helen. That's 100%. So the bank reconciliation, I'm going to jump directly to the bank reconciliation procedure. The step number 1 is to obtain the copies of the bank reconciliation and agree to the details, the bank confirmations, the third party, the bank statement, the general ledger, any supporting documentation, any list of outstanding checks. As mentioned by Helen, what you want to confirm is that the balance disclosed has been reconciled, in any of these little reconciling items have the correct explanation. I'm just going to read through the procedures here, and then we're going to jump to our working program. So usually what happens is some firm may or may not have a separate work program or working paper where they've inserted all the steps for the bank reconciliation. And you can always refer to your audit work program, but if it is more efficient to work on the working paper because it's your firm's document, policy document to use, you can also refer to that. Just make a note and ask your manager, do you have any working paper for your bank reconciliation? So quickly reading through, obtaining the copies of the bank reconciliation to agree to the bank statements, the GL, the supporting document. Check your arithmetic accuracy of the bank reconciliation. We're about to do that, and you've got the assertion that you're testing. Obtain directly from the bank a copy of the bank statement or online bank statement for immediate period. Agree the opening bank statement balance to the bank recon. Agree a sample of deposits on the bank statement, if there is any, to a list of outstanding deposits. Investigate unusual time delays. Examine your bank debits and credit notes. Ensure that these notes have been properly recorded in the cash journal. So if we go, sorry about that. If we go to our work program, so if you refer to your document manager, you've got your working paper. Actually, it's the bank reconciliations working paper, the Excel 421. You can double click to open the Excel. I'm going to increase that view a little bit. That this is clear here. So what we have is the name of our practice. Fletcher Inc. at the top. We need to insert the company name here. So I'm just going to add our wrap-up manufacturing limited. Alternatively, you've seen I've had errors. That's always, Sandrine, when I'm typing, it's always coming up with errors. What you can also do, instead of typing in, you can also use your Caseware connector. So if you have connector installed, please do it. If you don't worry about that. You can always send a message to your account manager. We'll sort it out, or even to support. We'll make sure that we install connector, which is part of your package. I can use connector and a Caseware linkage to quickly add my company name. So that's Wrap-Up Manufacturing. So when you click on Caseware linkage, it will open the connector dialog box. The first category I'm on is the engagement property, looking at here all the items or all the values I've inserted, not values, but all whatever I've written on engagement property window on Caseware will appear here. I'm currently on operating name wrap-up company. I have to accept this if I'm happy with it. My year end, so I'm going to look for the year end is 30th of April 2023. Accept, it's going to appear, and this is my schedule of bank reconciliation. We could also add our materiality amount using connector, but I'm going to leave that to explain for another time. Just wanted to show you that you can also use connector to add your details faster. Our overall materiality, where do we get that information? So remember, you've got your 420 document, which is the materiality document, or alternatively, by looking at your cash and cash equivalent lead sheet, you've got your materiality matrix on the top of the lead sheet. So we've got 1 million for overall materiality, 800,000 performance, 30,000 for trivial. So I'm going to insert the balances over there. You can do that as well on your side. The source of whatever we're about to insert here will be the trial balance. So the source will be, where did you pick up all the different balances, and where we coming from? We're coming from, remember, what's the source? Where did you get the different values, the different bank accounts? It's from your trial balance. So that's my trial balance. If there is any other, I would have added any other documentation or any other source. The objective and the different assertions. So using the Audit International methodology will be for completeness, risk of material misstatements. For that one, if you look at your audit procedures, your work program, you've got here the assess risk at FS level. You can also look at your FSA, where you have the different assess risks at the different assertion level. You've got all the scoring appearing here. You can replicate that back onto your working paper. So I can add P here for presentation PD, presentation and disclosure over there. Remember, in Audit International methodology, you have to interpret those summarized assertions as a full list of assertions. So on your side, you can also start typing low risk of material misstatement for completeness, low risk for existence, occurrence, and medium RMM for AV. Sample size, we're going to add 100%. We're going to look at your full sample size, your full list of the full GL. Sample method not applicable here. Reference to our audit work program. So what's our work program reference number? That's for 2010. So again, you can use connector to do that if you want, or you can simply type it in for 2010, or use Caseware linkage can use my lead sheet, LS for lead sheet under category, and then look for the document number 420. Have to sort by number, of course. Looking for 420. Okay, let's look for the FSA cash and cash equivalent. You can add it here, 420, like the value, the FSA 420, or literally just typing in 42010. That can also work. Your audit will formed, so that will be your procedure number, and if you want your procedure name, so what we're about to do is the procedure number 4, which is the bank reconciliation. So I can add procedure 4. Sorry. You can also add bank reconciliation, but that's the title. That's currently the title of this document. Sorry guys, my cursor wasn't working anymore. So yeah, so I can leave it to procedure number 4. So now, guys, once again, this is a working paper, a simulation of a working paper, but you can also ask your supervisor for any bank reconciliation schedule and how to fill it in. I'm going to show you how to fill in that particular sheet. So we're starting with the bank balance per cash book from the bank reconciliation. So we're going to look at the bank reconciliation in a few moments. We need to insert the account number as per the trial balance and the balance per the cash book on reconciliation and whether the balance agreed to our lead sheet. Because I'm just conscious of time, I'm also going to explain the other headers. We are going to go through any reconciling items as per the client record. We're going to give a description, show the amount and the audit work performed, the bank balance per the bank statement obtained from the client reconciliation. We are going to also annotate, remember, very important, your tick marks, the legend of your tick marks. If it's not already there, you can inquire what's your firm's tick marks policy or tick marks, or use Caseware tick mark, which is better. Reference your work, what is the work program or any documentation that you perform all these recon, whether the balance tick mark, whether the balance agreed to the bank statement, whether the bank statement is in the company name, and any misstatements that you've identified. Okay, so let's start with 1 or 2. So I'm going to see if we can do everything, but yeah, we'll definitely try to do our maximum best to complete everything. So let's start with looking at the bank reconciliation. So the client has provided us with its bank recon. So that's the document I've shared with you, the client prepared bank reconciliation. So let's please open that document. So what we have here is the schedule of bank recon for the year end. Is that the correct year end? That's 100%. The bank reconciliation for current accounts. So that's the current account. I'm just trying to copy current account 110134, balance as per cash books, book 853,327. So we're going to insert all of these information back onto our bank reconciliation schedule. So just for your information, we're also using here the cash and cash equivalents lead sheet. So we fortunately is the same account name. So that's 100%. So we're going to insert account number and the account name here. Okay, back in here. So the account number, that's the account number and the account name. The balance per cash book on reconciliation, if you would recall, that's what I'm going to write here. So it's 853,327.12. Does the balance agree to the lead sheet? Lead sheet 420 or 620? So you can also comment, hey, unfortunately you can't communicate viva voce. You can't communicate viva voce with me, but we can clearly see here that it is, sorry, it is agreeing. So I'm going to add my little tick mark. So that will be the tick mark, no exception noted, that I would like to use. Okay, so we're going to start filling up all of that. You can also do that on your side as well as a practice. I'm going to go a little bit faster on that one. Net bank call account, 4,064,000. Quickly checking out, 4,064,809.82. That is 100%. That works better if you have two screens, eh? So I'm going to add the account number. Net bank call account. 4,064,809.82. We agree, we've seen together that it is the balance is agreeing to the lead sheet. So let's continue. We also have the net bank overdraft. Let's look at here, the net bank discounting facility of the net bank overdraft, the balance as per the cash book. And we've got all the reconciling items over there. 3,179 to 65.38. Looking at the lead sheet for bank overdraft, remember lead sheet 620, 3,179 to 65. That is 100%. I'm going to write that down back here. Overdraft facility. And it's negative 3,179 to 65.38. And we've seen that it is agreed. The reconciling items per the client's cash book. So let's have a look at, now that we're happy with the lead sheet, let's continue with this current account. We've seen all the different reconciling items. We've got 151,370. So that's the name, the description is creditors payments processed. So I'm going to copy it and insert the description here. And the amount is 151,000. Okay, now what should we do for that reconciling item? So we would usually go and agree the amount on the bank statement. So let's look for the bank statement now. I've shared with you all the bank statement. You can also decide to copy the bank statements and pull it to your document manager. I'm just going to add it, copy and paste. I'm not going to explain it anymore, guys. We've done that earlier in the different sessions. You can drag and drop, copy and paste all the statements on your document manager. Let's have a look, sorry, at the current account bank statement. You can double click to open it. If you want to open your bank statement within your Caseware working paper to be able to annotate and do any annotation, remember that you need to select the properties internal image viewer to be able to view your bank statement within Caseware and be able to do any annotation and even sign off. So what we're seeing here is we have got, let's look again at this bank reconciliation. We've got here the details of the 151,000, Adam weighing equipment on the 30th of April, Alston Industrial, Anchored technical tapes, got all these balances. And looking at here, we've got Adam, 7 million. I can see it here. I can even add the new highlight option. The Alastan, that's our Alastan, and the Anchor technical tapes, 137,050. You can even add a note if required. So what we've tried to do here, we have agreed these amounts to the bank statement. You can also inquire about these particular payments, and let's assume that we've done it, and we have seen that payments were only processed through the bank account on the 3rd, and we can see here the dates. I'm also going to highlight the dates here. It's processed on the 3rd of April, and remember our period is 30th of it's no 3rd of May, but our year end is 30th of April. So what happened in the bank record, in the accounting system of the client, they have processed those as gone out of the bank account, but on the bank statement it was only processed on the 3rd of April. So meaning that these should not have been processed in the accounting records, right? Should have only been processed on the 3rd of May, but the accountant has done the processing at year end. So let's add our comment there. For the next records, guys, I'm going to go a little bit faster. So I'm going to add here, we have agreed amounts to the bank statement. Payments were only processed through through the bank account on the 3rd of, I'm saying April, it's May. Sorry guys, I'm having a confusion here. So 3rd of May, it's May, 3rd of May, they should, or the account, they should, okay, therefore not have been processed into the accounting records CN1. So when I say CN1, I would like to add some more meat to that to give more confidence and also to help the client know, okay, this shouldn't have been processed. That's what we are going to suggest to you. So we're going to say creditors payments processed should be therefore reversed first, and interest should, okay, let's not talk about interest now. Let's say creditors payment should be reversed. So it's going to be debit. We're going to debit the current account. So remember, what is the current account? 8450,000. So debit 8450,000, which is the current account, by an amount of, just gonna pick it up here, and credit. When do you credit? These are, if you look here, who are these? These are creditors. So we're going to reverse that journal entry. We're going to reverse the accounts payable. So I'm going to credit accounts payable. So just quickly looking at what's the code for accounts payable. How do you know what's the code for accounts payable, by the way? So you can look through your FSA. You're wondering what's the accounts payable code? Look for your account payable, your trade and other payable, double click and look at your accounts payable code. It's 9,000 000. So you double click on the amount, you can view as well. Instead of looking at your full trial balance, which can be long and take time, you can refer to the FSA, the nervous system always. So that's credit 9,000 000. That's accounts payable by that amount. Here we go. Okay, let me just write it down. That should be easier. Okay. All right, so now what is the new balance, the bank balance per the bank statement obtained from the client record? It is going to be this 853,000 amount 151. We've got 1,004,679. So now by looking at the bank balance per the bank statement, if we look again at the bank statement, you look at your lead sheet. So that's the amount per the bank statement, 1,004,697. I'm going to put it in pink. It's Women's Day. We're celebrating women today. Let's put it to pink. But of course, you will say to the color, stick to the color of your firm. But here we go. We've been able to reconcile to that bank balance. So let's now do our referencing. So that document is the document 424. So I'm going to select over there reference 424. I'm also going to add here our cross-casting. So we are happy now for the cross-casting. I'm just going to add it here, make it a little bit pretty here. Does the balance agree now to the bank statement? That is correct. Does the bank statement is in the name of the company? So when you look at here, the bank statement is in the name of the company, bank statement, account description, wrap-up manufacturing. Yes, it is in the name of the company. And any identified misstatement. So my identified misstatement, remember, is that amount that we have reversed for the creditors that shouldn't have been processed. So I've been going a little bit slow on how to fill in the working program. Now I'm going to go a little bit faster just to make sure that we can complete the session. Looking at the second bank account, which is the net bank pool, we've seen that this is the balance for the cash book and we've agreed it to the lead sheet. Looking at the bank reconciliation, there is no reconciling item. What we're going to then do is look at the balance per the client's return. That's 100%. Have we done the costing and cross-costing? So for that one, you can also go into we've done it actually. We've used the technology to do that. We've used analytics to do that. That is also fine. So I can sign off here. Sorry guys, I'm just a little bit picky on that one. Let's keep it nice. Referencing, what's the bank statement? So looking at the bank statement, so I'm going to, let's also sign off completed by here. I'm just going to sign off the current account as completed. And then we're going to move to the next one, which is the NetBank call account. Just double click to open the call account. So that's the balance. What is the balance at year end? 4,064,809. That is the balance, and the referencing is 423. It's not in that order, but that's fine. Have we agreed it to the bank statement? Yes, I've just done it. Is the bank statement in the name of the company? That is Wrapping Manufacturing Limited. We've done it. Any okay, let's quickly have a look here. Just seeing something. That's the capital balance, that's the interest. So here what we note is we've got an interest that should have been capitalized, that 7,699. So I'm just gonna highlight this in yellow to stay into our how do you call that, color codes. And the balance is, ultimate balance is 4,072,000. So what we will do with that for 7,699, we're going to process that journal entry, that interest that should have been capitalized. So let's not add that it has agreed. Let's rather raise a journal entry in that sense. So journal entry N2, that N2 will be, let's first explain it. The balance agrees to the bank statement. However, the client has not accounted for interest which was capitalized on 1st of May 2023 relating to April 2023, amounting to, what was the amount? 7,699. Here we go. 7,699. 99.84. And the journal entry would be, I'm going to write down the journal entry here. Interest that should have been capitalized relating to 2023. So we're going to debit 84.40. Remember, that's the net bank call account number. $7,699.84 and credit 27,000. I'm just going to give you the code because I have it on top of my mind. That's the interest received. And we can add further detail here. We're going to process all of that on our Caseware working paper. So we're going to refer to the journal entry SP1. We're going to process these different journal entries. And if ever we have other, we can also do the processing. And by the way, the processing is done on your Caseware working paper. Control J to open your Caseware. I've already done it for you. You should see that if you select the journal entry SP1. So the type is unrecorded factual at the moment. We have inserted a description of of the factual error. I have also inserted a reference of the work, where was the work performed. That's the reference of the document 421, our bank reconciliation working paper. Very important for my manager to be able to understand where did I get to this journal entry. And these are all the processing. I'm not going to explain it again because we've just done it. We are going to reverse the payment made to the payment processed in our books or in the books of the client for accounts payable, and we're going to process the interest that should have been capitalized. It's already 5 minutes past the hour. I'm conscious time is running, guys. Let's take a 10-minute sharp break and be back. We are going to complete the work program. Welcome back, everybody, to this webinar of auditing your cash and cash equivalents. I trust that you have been able to grab a cup of coffee or a glass of water. On my side, I forgot to grab a cup of water, a glass of water, but I'm so happy to be with you. We've got less than 45 minutes to complete the rest of the work program. So we're not going to complete it fully. This is a mini simulation of the work. So we're going to choose some of the procedures that we're about to complete. Before the break, we were busy doing and completing our bank reconciliation working paper as per our firm's documentation. We've done the reconciliation of the current account. We've seen that there is a reconciling item that we need to reverse. This is a misstatement that has been recorded. We've seen that there's also in the net bank call account a misstatement, not a misstatement, but the interest that has not been capitalized relating to the financial year we're auditing. We're left with one loss, which is the net bank overdraft facility of 3.1 million. Now, guys, this is the option for you to go back home and perform that list of that reconciliation. My ask is you go back after this webinar, go through that working paper, replicate what you've learned so far to complete this reconciliation. Come back to us at Caseware Africa. You can even email myself or marketing team with your findings. And we've got a gift at the end for that person coming to us back with the right findings, with the detail. And you can even add like a screenshot of what you've done for that net bank overdraft facility. So I promise you gifts in all of my sessions, and that's your gift once you share it with us. So we're going to give you up until let's put it up until, what day is it today? Friday. Let's give you up until Friday next week. You can give us your answers and then share it with us. Okay. Cool. So now I'm not going to fill that in, but just to mention that once you do fill in your bank reconciliations working paper, you have to conclude on the Excel itself before going to the work program. Conclude whether the audit evidence that you've obtained is sufficient and appropriate to reduce risk of material misstatement to an acceptably low level. So the conclusion here, I can insert the objective on the top. Objective has been met. Right. So we can then, I'm going to sign it off, but guys, you understand that we've not completed it, eh? That's the net bank overdraft facility that you need to do. And that person coming back to us with the full, with that table completed with his comments and his observation will then receive the gift, provided it's correct, eh? So I'm going also to sign off on the top, signed by SP, that's me, Sandrine Perman. I'm going to close that Excel. I've signed on my schedule, save the Excel. I need also to remember on my Caseware working paper, on my document manager, there's the bank reconciliation working paper 421. You need to sign this as well. Right click, sign off as completed by. We've also signed off, you can also bulk sign off your other bank statements that we've gone through, the system description that we've also gone through. Now, going back to the work program, cash and cash, your bank reconciliation procedures, I'm not going to fill that in, but you will then need to fill in your results. So you can, I'm going to bulk sign off, completed, no exceptions. We've been doing that. We've obtained the bank reconciliation. We went through the GL, the bank recon, the bank statements. We've also gone through looking at the opening bank statements and also provide with a sign-off once you complete that one. I'm going to close that bank reconciliation chapter for now and go back to our work program, where we are going to fill in the next procedure, which is procedure 7, existence of bank balances. So in this step, it requires evidence to audit the disclosures in the financial statements. This would usually be done in line with your firm methodology. So if you've got a confirmation tool, you can use the confirmation tool, or it can be a facility letter or any other procedure that your firm decide to confirm existence of a bank. Please do ask your supervisor what you currently use. So we've got here a procedure A, which is to assess the need for selecting bank accounts to confirm period end. For accounts not confirmed, perform alternative procedures, obtain a bank confirmation for all selected accounts, for all accounts selected in A above, and agree the details to the bank reconciliation. So we have also obtained here a facility letter, because remember, it's not just about bank statement. We've got other documentation that can support, that can be an evidence that it is, you know, an overdraft or any other facility that has been used. So we've obtained that. So I'm going to look for that, the net bank overdraft. That's the net bank overdraft facility that the client has provided us. It's addressed to the directors of wrap-up manufacturing. It's coming from the net bank. We see the logo top right of the screen. And if we scroll down further, you can also see here all the details from net bank. What we see on the facility letter, it says the facility is limited to 20 million rand, securities to be provided by you, with all the different details. So we've obtained the evidence from the client. We're happy that this is correctly used as they've explained to us earlier, right? We are also, I'm going to close that one and go back to the work program. I've already signed it off as completed, no exception, but remember, you can always add your referencing. I'm going to double click over there, add my bank, that facility letter description. Going to go to cash and cash equivalent. That's the net bank facility letter. I'm going to add it here, and this will be my supporting document for that one. So I'm going to sign off that particular audit step. Now, if we go back, let's continue with the next procedure. So let's look at the cutoff procedure. So document the entity's cutoff procedures, audit procedures performed to ensure cash transactions are recorded in the appropriate period. So I've already signed off here, but once again, this will be done. You can use the full GL to have a look at the different cutoff, go back to the bank statements to have an understanding of what has been processed, what the cutoff system. Here we don't have the processing dates over there. It's just the, you know, at the time of the processing, but we've got the processing, the date that has been accepted as the date the transaction was processed. So what I mean is, for each audit step that you have on your work program, you have to complete, and you also have to detail if there is any exception, if there is anything that is not correct. We also have the procedure 10, which is accounting policies. Ensure the accounting policies are appropriate and consistently applied. That once again, you will use your extraction of the financial statements. We've got here your financial instruments. Is it applicable? Have you read through that? Once again, as the methodology in Audit International prescribes, use your professional judgment, knowledge, ask your supervisor if required, and then give your opinion. Because remember, guys, you are signing off that there's no exception that has been noted, that you're happy with the accounting policies that have been consistently applied and are appropriate. Just want to get you back. You're giving your opinion on the financial statements. So that's why you're being asked whether the accounting policies are consistent and appropriate. Presentation and disclosure, the notes, the procedure 11, classification, ensure the classes of transactions have been appropriately classified, aggregated or disaggregated, and characterized in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. That framework that we have understood, that we have documented at the planning stage of this particular procedure. Disclosures. The notes to the financial statement include disclosures required by the appropriate financial reporting framework. What does your framework? Always go back to the framework. That's what dictates what we should do. What does the framework indicate in respect of cash and cash equivalents? So is it appropriately disclosed? As mentioned earlier, your IFRS for SME, no net off of current asset, current liabilities. Is it correctly showed? We've also had the comment, the credit guarantee insurance policy are considered as security for facilities granted to the company at year end. Is that appropriate and relevant for wrap up? Is for you to give this particular opinion here by signing off your procedure. Relevant information. The overall presentation of the financial statements has not been undermined by including information that is not relevant. Once again, very important here, or that obscures a proper understanding of the matters disclosed. Procedure D, composition of balances. Here, it says the composition of balances, totals, and disclosures in current period and their composition at year end, at end of the previous periods agrees. So here, what we are going to do in that particular procedure, sorry about that, we are going to go and inspect the draft financial statement, make sure that the disclosures are consistent and that the bank overdraft is actually, because it is negative at year end, it is properly classified in the correct section, which is bank overdraft under cash and cash equivalent. We've done all the procedures to make sure that this has not been used for any other purposes than an overdraft facility. Okay, just giving you time to locate all of that and reading, giving you 5 minutes to read through your procedures, your audit procedures, give a result, sign off. You can even deselect the sign off and then write down your results. So maybe, Ellen, if there is anything from a practical perspective, what you've experienced during your different years working in audit industry, there is anything that you want to add to the audit procedures work program before we start signing off the procedures and closing any other procedures?
Thanks, Sandrine. Yeah, I think I do review files often, and I think the things we do sometimes forget to do in terms of bank reconciliation is what you have done today, which is testing the reconciling items, making sure they're actually appropriate, thinking about should they have gone through the bank account and the bank or the accounting records, or shouldn't they have, and is it in line with the accounting framework? And I think also just as you showed with that interest amount being capitalized, just to look at that after year end to see, oh, okay, that interest does actually relate to during the year, so it's not a reconciling item, but we should have it there. And then the thing that I find also is often overlooked, I think for everyone just to remember that the financial statements are not just numbers. They are not just from a trial balance. If we go back to that slide, you don't need to do it now, you can sit here, but if everyone does look at their little slide, you will see it says the financial statements come from trial balance and other because in the note for the cash and cash equivalents, we have the disclosure of the securities, as I mentioned at the beginning, and that is reflected in the example notes that everyone has today. And we actually need to audit the disclosures as well. So the trial balance is the numbers, but the other is going to be our other disclosures in the financial statements as required by the accounting framework. So what I find is often missed also is just the agreement of the disclosures in the financial statements to some sort of supporting documentation. That's it from my side. Anything else you would like, you think I should comment on further?
No, we are about to do the audit plan completion and signing off. Do you want us to discuss about this slide?
Perfect. Let me quickly go through it. I'm quite conscious of the time, so I shall be brief. All right. So what we've shown you today in the course is the bank reconciliation and other procedures like the analytical, going through the work program, etc. For some firms, part of their methodology will also be to do cash book testing. So the things that we consider when we're looking at whether we need to do cash book testing or not is whether we have indirectly tested the cash book transactions through other sections. So for example, if we are doing trade and other receivables, and when we do the trade receivables testing, we check that receipts have gone through the cash book correctly, apart from vouching them to the bank statement. So we actually go to the cash book as well. Or the trade payables section, we test the payments also to the cash book as well as the bank statement. Then we have indirectly tested some of the transactions that are going through the cash book. So the firm, in their developing their methodology, would consider whether it is necessary for them to do cash book testing or not. If we have sufficiently covered it elsewhere, then it's not necessary. If not, then we should select transactions out of the cash book to test to supporting documentation. So usually how this would be done, if it is part of the firm's methodology, is a sample of payments and receipts would be selected from the cash book, and that would be traced through to supporting documentation. So not just the bank statement, but also the invoices, other statements, etc. The source of that transaction when it was initially recorded in the accounting records. And then what we would document is the same principle as what we have been documenting, which is we should cover where did we start from. So the source of our testing would have been the cash book. What was our sample that we selected, document the transactions that we selected, as well as the selection method for our sample. The identifying characteristics, you'll see we refer to identifying characteristics of the cash book entry would mean how do I distinguish this transaction that you selected for testing from the ones that have not been tested. So the points I think to keep in mind also with documentation is that we are trying to enable someone who's reading our documentation, our evidence that we are putting on file. They should be able to read it, understand what we've done, and come to the same conclusion, draw the same conclusion that we've done. In some jurisdictions, the regulator even goes a little bit further and would like items or testing to be reperformable. So enough documentation that someone would be able to, if I wanted to, I could select the same items you selected, I could test them, I could find the same documentation that you found. And then also just keep in mind that the person reviewing the working paper is not sitting next to you, so you do need to properly document things so that they are able to fill in the gaps and understand the whole story. All right, so I think that sufficiently, I hope it covers enough with cash book testing, but you are welcome to post any questions, which I will answer as we go. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Elaine. That's very, gives lots of light to our new attendees in the room on how to complete the cash book testing. Sorry about that, I'm losing my voice. So talking about now the audit plan completion, that's the last part of this work program. So first of all, you've got a mandatory procedure in your Audit International. All the procedures have these audit plan completion that you must fit in. First of all, the first question is, an appropriate level of professional skepticism was used in evaluating audit evidence obtained. Provide with your results, that is, you need to sign off. So you are responsible for the procedures that you've performed. You're signing off that you have used appropriate level of professional skepticism. Evaluate whether any management's judgment decision or indicators of possible management bias. Misstatements identified other than those deemed trivial has been recorded in 335. Yes, we've done that. You can also click on the link. Remember, the blue hyperlinks or you can click on it to view the document. So that's the 335 document, which is your misstatement document. So just give us a few moments. Gonna pull just now. So that's your list of journal entries that you've processed. Your unrecorded misstatement factual at the moment. You can use the reference 335.11 if you need to share, but not if you need, when you need to share the journal entries to the client and now say, Mr. Client, these are the misstatements that we came across that needs to be processed in your books. So you can save it as a PDF or Excel to share with the client. Going back to cash and cash equivalent. Next, mandatory procedure number 4, new risk factors identified and revised assessment of existing risks were documented. You can also go in and talk to your managers in that respect. Go through your risk report 520E. That's the summary of all the risks raised in your engagement file, and address through procedures performed above. Give your sign off here. I've also mentioned that the error identified does not indicate a need to revise the audit plan or strategy. Remember the error that we've identified, that 2 payments processed in the accounts for 2 creditors that were processed after year end in the bank statement, and also the how do you call that, this, I've got a little blank here, that going back here, that's that one, that will be that interest that has not been capitalized, eh? So the misstatements identified do not approach materiality, so we're not going to revise. Sign off And once again, do not forget to sign off so you're going to sign off individual procedures and also sign off that you've completed. We've not done all the procedures on your audit work program, but obviously you need to go through each and every procedure on the work program and sign it off. I also wanted to point out, I didn't have the option to do that earlier, but I just want to point out, if you go back to your FSA, cash and cash equivalent still, remember our unrecorded journal entries. So as mentioned, your 335.11 document can be shared to your client, to Mr. Client, and they are going to then process these into the system if they're agreeable, and then you're going to, that unrecorded adjusted journal entry will then move to the final balance column, change that balance, and also help you understand from the FSA were those journal entries corrected, or will it be rolled forward to next year because it was not corrected. That was quite a lot we agree for today, but we are hoping to receive your comments, receive your reconciliation, as mentioned earlier, for a little, not a little, but very, very nice gift. For the next part of this, I'd like us to fill in the webinar feedback survey. I'm going to pull that into the chat box. I invite you all to fill in the survey that will help us to better not to better, but to modify the webinar if for any, and take into consideration your different suggestions. So I'm going to leave the floor open for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Fill in the form, and we are going to use this option as well to go through the different questions. If you've got some practical questions you want to share with us, make the other attendees benefit, we're 100% with that. You can use the chat box for your questions. If you are back online, please fill in the survey. We look forward, we read every of your responses. We do provide, we do listen to your suggestions, to your comments, make sure that our webinars does fit to what you're looking for. And once again, do not hesitate to ask your questions. We didn't have much questions today. We had a very special guest in the room who's waiting for your questions. But it was a real pleasure to be with all of you today. Looking forward to be, whilst you're filling in the survey, looking forward to be with you on the 15th of March for general expenses. On the 4th of April, we're covering financial statements, how to balance your note, balancing your cash flow. We've got several of you who asked for that, balancing your related party notes. On the 5th of April, we're going through the employee costs, auditing employee costs using Audit International. And on the 15th, for 3 hours, we're going to do the auditing of journal entries, related party, and other income. I'm going to leave the floor open for 2 more minutes for you to fill in the survey. And remember, before you log off, to share with us your observations, your reconciliation for your working paper for bank reconciliation, and we are going to select select the winner and announce it on our LinkedIn page. Remember our LinkedIn page. This is the Get Ahead Audit International. You can also scan the QR code. Please do connect with us on LinkedIn. We look forward to really build that community of new intake and get you ahead in your career. And for yesterday, we've also announced the winner on the LinkedIn page. So make sure that you're on LinkedIn to get your gift. One more minute to fill in the survey. If you're done, I wish you a very productive day, a very nice weekend. A big shout out to all the women in the room, and also to those men who support the women across the globe and in your family. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. See you soon. Cheers.